Hi everyone, welcome to After Class
a podcast by two passionate adult ballerinas about all things adult ballet related.
and some random thoughts in between.
We're so glad you're here.
So grab your water bottle
Or a cup of coffee.
and join us for a quick chat after class.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of After Class. Today, I am so excited because we have Allie from Align Fitness with us on the podcast. I personally have been working with her for the last couple years, and you guys have heard me reference her on the podcast, so we are so excited to have her as a guest. So welcome, Allie.
Hi, thank you for having me. I am so excited to come on and just chit chat with you.
Yes, me too. Literally, since we started the podcast, there was a couple people where I was like, if we're doing a podcast, we have to have these people. And you were at the top of the list.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, you have been such a critical part of my journey, which we will get into as we talk. But our listeners have definitely heard me say your name multiple times. So it'll be fun to just hear more about you, share more with our audience. So maybe to start, if you could just share about your personal dance background growing up. And then I know you had time as a professional, so you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I grew up dancing. Grew up in Utah, did all the styles, and kind of leaned heavily on ballet towards the end. And I knew it when I was young, but I did not have the ballet body. There was nothing about me that screamed, you are going to make it as a dancer. I, in fact, had several teachers who told me otherwise, but through will and sheer grit, I got the opportunity to go to San Francisco and do some training programs there with Lines Ballet, and then an opportunity to be in Israel for a year with a company and program there. And then I came back to the States and did a couple small projects. That was the extent of my dancing career because at 21, I had a hip injury that I now know is very common amongst dancers. I got a labral tear inside the hip. And it's actually something that happens to a lot of dancers in varying degrees. But I ignored mine. I didn't know that pain was something of a red flag. And 20 years ago, there just wasn't the information there is now. The ballet world was even harsher than it is now, especially for young ones. And I just ignored my pain. I thought it was part of being a dancer, kind of like a little badge of pride, like, oh, my hips, but I make it work. So I ignored it. And when I finally took care of it, I had this labral tear, and the doctors I was seeing were telling me I was going to have surgeries, multiple surgeries, that I wasn't going to be able to dance or move, and that I'd have a hip replacement by the time I was 30. And I just knew that that's not what I wanted. And I knew that some of the information they were giving me just didn't add up. Like they would say, you're going to have to keep coming in and having this little labral flap shaved off because you're going to keep doing this to yourself, basically. I was like, well, if movement is causing this, then can't I fix it? And they were like, no. So, I've learned a lot going to surgeons, and the biggest thing I learned is if you want a surgical answer, go to a surgeon, and if you want a movement solution, go to a rehab specialist. So I found someone 2 years later. It was a long 2 years, and when I figured out that thing, which happened to be putting a weight in my hand and challenging my body with a heavy object, with good cueing and good form and all the things, my years of hip pain literally disappeared. So all the information I had growing up of don't pick up a weight, you're going to bulk, dancers can't do anything but dance ballet, was incorrect and was actually probably the thing that injured me the most. So that's how I kind of got into this area. And since then, now I work with dancers exclusively. I do the gyrotonic method and strength and conditioning. I have a bunch of other random knowledge and nuggets I've gotten, and I continue to gather them. And I work a lot with adult dancers and some young ones too. But my goal is that dancers have a better experience than I did, and that we're dancing until we're 90. And I really am passionate about assisting the adult dance community and thriving, because I think they're kind of an underserved population in the dance world.
Yeah, underserved and growing. It's just gotten
Yeah.
so big over the last few years, which has just been so cool to see.
And we can kind of thank COVID for that one, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, really, it's incredible to see how much it's grown and how many more events and things like summer intensives and classes are being offered, and it's just such a great thing. But I love that the catalyst for you starting this career was coming from a place of personal experience, because I always just think in any realm or area, when you meet somebody who is doing it from a place of having lived through something, it just comes somewhere different. And you can tell that in working with you. And I guess one of my questions would be, what makes training dancers so unique? Because I know that you as a dancer, like, you really understand that population. So what are some of the unique facets of training dancers in your experience?
Well, I mean, just our performance goals as dancers are different than that of anyone who's just working out to be fit. Especially as females, a lot of our goals in the general fitness world tend to go around body fat or image. So, a lot of trainers are working towards that because that's what mainstream media is telling us fitness is this look you're going for as far as a body aesthetic. Performance goals tend to happen for athletes, but then we know that as athletes and dancers, we're also artists. So we have to look good while we do all these crazy athletic endeavors. So there's that unique aspect of it, and that it's really understanding what needs to be happening in the body throughout the whole body, not just in one area, to be able to lift your leg into a double pellicone with your hip down, because we know, as much as we can say like, okay, we engage the hip flexor and the quad and there's some core work there. If you just try to engage those muscles, it's not ballet. It's not the technique that we're asking for. Those aspects that are just not going to be as understood from someone who doesn't dance. Although I have met a few trainers who are phenomenal at working with dancers, but they've really taken the time to understand what the demands of dance are. It's really common that I get, especially adult dancers who come to me who maybe worked with trainers in the past, and they say like, my trainer is great, but they do not understand that ballet is my life. And I've even had somebody say like, I told my trainer, if they mess up my olisacone, I'm leaving them. Like, they are serious, you know? So it's like we recognize as adults, like, oh, this person is good at what they're doing, but they may not have the like honed in craft that we need as a dancer. And I feel like on top of all of those details, just the mindset of dancers is so different. Like, really understanding what it's like to stand in front of a mirror and have to have not only the physique that you're working towards, but the mindset, how to have as healthfully as we can, that mindset connection with your body, the atmosphere of being told there's something wrong with you. And even in the best sense, you know, like, you're constantly being corrected. And there's just not a lot of things in life that can be the same as that. So when you come into someone like me and you have a history, as all dancers do, of like pointing out the negative, even if your teacher is not saying like, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, but it's like, oh, point your toe more. Oh, tuck your butt under more. You're just constantly seeing the bad. And we have to make that shift of like, you have to feel what's good, not look at what's bad. So not just see yourself in the mirror and go, ooh, but can you feel that this change actually is affecting you in a positive way or a negative way? So really trying to understand the mindset of dancers is one of the biggest things that I see when I refer dancers to other professionals, like when they need medical assistance or when they're really injured. I have my people I send them to, and they're wonderful with dancers, but conversations always come back of like, so why is this so hard for them? You know, why do they care so much about how they look? I'm like, well, because it's the major part of dancing. Yeah. So even if you see it, it's just it's a different come from than other sports.
Yeah. Think of things even like just wanting to be turned out when you're doing exercises. And I'm sure for a personal trainer who's never worked with a ballet dancer, they'd be like, what? Why are you standing like that?
Oh, totally. Because if they look at, you know, you might say, like, I have the worst turnout. You might be saying, like, oh, I never had good turnout. I didn't dance as a younger. I have the worst turnout extension in the world. If you go to a trainer, they're going to be like, you have tons of external rotation. We're not going to work on external rotation. You already have it. It's above average compared to other people in the world.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the things that I've heard you say a lot, and I was like, oh man, she's so works with dancers to even know to say this. But I think I was even doing one of your videos the other day, and you said something about like, don't worry about making it look pretty, because you know that dancers, even when we're doing exercises, we have this thing in our mind of trying to make it look like ballet. And sometimes you just need to chill out and do the exercise.
Yeah. Sometimes you just do the work and not worry about what it looks like. If your toe is pointed, is the line right? One of my favorite things about dancers is that when we're working right to left, we could be doing like a lunge and they will turn sideways to me with that nice open line. And then when you do the other side, they'll turn around so that you have the same view from the other side. And if you've danced your whole life, you don't even realize how weird that is. Yeah. But if you are not a dancer, you would not have turned around to show me the best angle of your body. You would have just switched legs. Yeah. And you would not be square in the orientation of the room. You'd be on some weird diagonal. You wouldn't be looking at the carpet lines. Like there's so many funny things that happen with dancers that are so unconscious. And they are hilarious as a trainer. And so you sometimes I have to remind people, I don't care what angle, I don't care if your toes pointed, just feel the work. Feel the work.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we have to be reminded of that as dancers. Like I love that you say it even in your recorded videos, because I'll literally be following along and I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. I need to be told to relax. It's so funny. Well, I know that now, especially, and we kind of touched on this at the beginning, a lot of your professional life is dedicated specifically to adult dancers. So what is it about adults that you really enjoy working with or find unique about working with them as opposed to, younger kids, pre-professionals?
I love adults. They're smarter, they're wiser, they are more committed than most kids are. They are taking time out of their freaking busy lives to follow a passion. So I not only respect that, find it inspiring, but know how hard it is to juggle life and to take time every single week, whatever that means to you, whether that's a 30-minute bar or you do it multiple times a week. I think it's super inspiring, and think that the wisdom part of life and knowing like I have to find joys is only something that you can develop as you age. And I just find it really inspiring that people will come to this extremely hard craft in their later time in life, when the world has told us up to this point that you only do this when you're young. And if you don't do this when you're young, you're never going to get better at it. And I know, and I think that that's not true. And when we give adults the tools that are a little more tailored for adults, because we have different bodies, different life experiences, and literally longer life experiences that build up in your body. Your past injuries, whether you've had children, did you break your leg when you were 13? Did you play other sports? Were you in your desk at school a ton, or were you doing sports? All of these things add up to your body moving in a certain way and are going to dictate how you start dancing from there, as opposed to a 5-year-old who we're kind of pushing upon them a certain way of moving. And then teaching tends to be geared towards that younger self that has already had the movement vocabulary built into their nervous system, because we're shaping them. And that's one of the benefits of professional dancers starting so young. But I don't always see that adult dancers are being taught in a way that assists them to change these like neural pathways and these patterns. And part of that is patience, for sure, because it takes time. But I just found with my own body that going back to my younger correction self, the things that I could spit them out, like lift your legs from underneath, pull your belly button back towards your spine, point your toe harder. These were all things that didn't work as an adult coming back from injury. And it was like, it took that rattling of having an injury that really kind of wiped me out. It was not just a like, oh, I turned my ankle. It really affected how I moved. There was a short time where I was in a wheelchair that I just couldn't walk. And it then mentally beat me up for 2 years. And then after that, it took me another 1.5 years to even want to look at dance. I boycotted dance in my mind because I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to talk to dancers. I stopped talking to all of my connections because I didn't want to hear about dance. And I had to slowly get back into it. So by the time I got back into it, my body was not the body I had grown up with. And I remember so clearly getting into a dance class and running through all the corrections I'd heard as a child and up till this injury. And I was like, these don't freaking work. Like, my body's not doing this. What do you mean lift from underneath your leg? What do you mean turn out your inner thighs? And so I had to teach myself / learn, wait, what's actually happening? Why is it that turnout can happen without your hip feeling grippy? Why can you lift your leg up above 90 degrees without your hip lifting? And every little correction we can think of, I had to figure out by myself how this actually happens, not with ballet terms.
Yeah, and I mean, I really think that that's one of the things that makes you so unique and so effective. I mean, that was because I first encountered you at a Catherine Morgan summer intensive, and you taught, I think it was a warm up and then maybe also like another class at that. And I remember your cueing and just thinking like, oh my gosh, this makes sense in my body. Like the things that you're saying are things I can actually logically feel right, and I can actually understand them enough to apply what you're saying. And I think that,
Right.
especially for people or adults that maybe danced when they were younger, will really understand, with like the old school teaching methods, a lot of times like the corrections just aren't even anatomically accurate. And so it's really hard to apply a correction and then the teacher will be like, do you feel the difference? And you're like, no, I don't feel the difference.
Yeah.
Like, because you're like, that doesn't even make sense to me. And I feel like that's one of the things that really sets you apart as a trainer and as someone in this space is that you do have cues that make sense. And so is there, specifically with adults, is there struggles or even maybe like injuries that you see people experiencing repeatedly?
For sure. Like, and with our body, I see a lot of back and knee and mobility issues. Like issues meaning your body hurts or you think you're not flexible enough. But the other one that's nothing to do with your body as you feel it, but definitely affects this is going to be moving through things too fast with not enough consistency. So going too hard, too fast, basically. We love dancing. And if you're in it, like you are in it. And some people are thinking about this all day. Like, oh, I'm done with work. I get to go take ballet. And it's a release for them. But if you don't build into taking your 4 classes a week or even up to an hour of class, you go too hard, too fast, and then it falls because your body has not built up the knowledge, the strength, the consistency. So I see a lot of adult dancers that are on the roller coaster of too much too fast, have to stop, too much too fast, have to stop, or whatever that looks like kind of for that individual. So really dealing with load management is a big part of what I am working with dancers when we're doing personal work, is figuring out how we build them in a sustained way instead of making the roller coaster happen.
Yeah, and that, I mean, it's funny because even just in a recent episode we recorded, we talked about this because I think it's such a contributing factor to that is that adults, we already tend to feel like we're behind or too late, and so there's this mentality of I need to catch up. Like I need to squeeze in as much ballet as I can while I can do it. And I think that's a lot of times what ends up like being the overuse injuries, the overdoing it. And yeah, it's hard. I mean, from working with me, like I've done that. I at the beginning I was doing too much. I was pushing too hard and my back went. And you walked with me through that, coming back from that process. And I think it's such a common thing with adults because that passion is so intense and we're like, I mean, they have so much time. Like there's this scarcity mentality that just makes us go bonkers when we should probably chill out a little bit. And I think doing not enough of other types of training that's balancing out. Like one of the things this year, it's funny because in a desire to get better at ballet, I'm actually trying to scale back a little bit on ballet classes and do more strength training because I know that ultimately that's what's going to really helped my ballet is not just taking more and more and more and more ballet classes. And so finding that balance of not going so hard that I injure myself because I'm only working in one way repeatedly,
Yeah.
but balancing it out. So
Yeah.
yeah. So what is kind of leading into that actually, like for adults, what is some of the benefits that you really see adults gain from strength training, cross training outside of the studio and the ways that it affects their dancing?
Well, the first thing that almost every adult dancer says after they've either been working with me privately or consistently using my online platform is they're like, my body just feels better. And then I know it's a podcast, so you can't see, but they all kind of like give me like a strong Superman stand. Like, I just feel stronger, like my body feels better. And it's exciting because I think we all can imagine what that feels like, or you've had that moment where you're like, I just kind of feel great, and like my core feels good, my back's feeling good, like I had a great balance in class, and your body feels like it's doing what you're trying to make it do. And that always will happen outside of the studio first. When you are working strength and conditioning and flexibility and whatever, with the goal of dancing getting better, the first thing you're going to see is that it gets better outside of the studio. So you're going to be in your kitchen when you're not in the dance studio, and you're going to do your random balance like we all do. And you're like, that was a killer balance. What just happened? Did you see that? And then you're going to get in the studio and it's going to be poop again. And wait a second. What just happened? And part of that, I think a big part of that, is that we're relearning, we're reconnecting neural pathways. We are literally creating new ways for our brain to move our body. And when you have multiple stimuli coming at you, which you always do, but let's add in the studio, the pressures of what other people are doing, the teacher's watching, there's music, the floor is slippery. Is your hand at the right spot? Are you running into your neighbor? The mirror is there. You have all these cues in your mind that have not served you, but you're in the studio and they make you do, your brain makes you do it. You're not going to be thinking of the harness hips that Allie said, that even though that helps so much, it's not going to happen in the studio first. So we have to be super patient with your consistency. Consistency will always, always pay off, and your roller coaster will get less roller coastery. It will have less dips and, less highs and less valleys, but it takes time for that to happen. But you will feel the difference in your body first outside of the studio. I feel like dancers always say their standing leg feels better. Like they feel like they can balance or be on one leg better. They feel like their turnout, the ability to use the turnout that they have, tends to be one of the first things that, especially when we work privately, that they feel. So I love that because I think a lot of dancers can understand the feeling of like, okay, I have this much turnout when I really try. When I'm standing there and I'm kind of gripping the floor and I have my hand locked on the bar and I can make this much turnout happen. But as soon as you do 3 tendus, your feet slide in and you're like, oh, I can't hold that turnout. So you might have a range in your hips, but you are still learning how to use that range. And that is what increases first, is you're learning how to use the range that you already have well. And then we can work on, increasing that range or in whatever way we're talking about. But the body is going to make those changes in how you feel outside first. And then across the board, your dancing is going to get better as your body gets stronger. Kind of coming to the human side, right? Like we have our dancer goals, but reality is we're all humans. And statistics show that after the age of 30, you start losing 3 to 8% of your muscle every year, which is crazy.
God.
Right? 30 is
So depressing.
It's young. It's so young. So if we keep that in mind, and then we keep in mind that the way that you gain muscle is by moving heavy objects, by true strength training. And I'm not talking about a 5-pound dumbbell. Like if that's where you have to start, fine. But we're not talking about 20 reps of bicep curls with a 5-pound dumbbell. We're talking about the hardest amount of weight you can do 8 reps with. So that's going to be 20 pounds, and it's going to kind of feel like it sucks. It's not going to hurt, but you're like, oh, right? It feels much better to be like, 5 pounds, I feel awesome. But that's not going to trigger that muscle growth and reproduction that we need. So as a human, we know this is happening. And if you are trying desperately to get stronger in the studio, and you're not doing strength training in the most human sense, you cannot expect your muscles to be able to hold your leg up above 45, 90 or higher if you're not training your body to gain more muscle as you're going. So there's a huge disconnect in the young dance world, and it's trickling into the adult dance world. Even though we have a little more knowledge, a little more understanding, it feels different, right? So you're like 30, okay, I'm there. I was there 20 years ago, whatever it is, it hits different. You tell a 20-year-old that, they don't care. So we have the ability to make these changes that will not only help you age well and be able to get up and down off the ground. I know I did a long several year spurt where I took care of a grandparent and was a full-time caregiver of her. So we're talking toilet time, showers, all that kind of stuff. I don't want to be that person. Like, I loved her. I'm happy I did it. But watching her not be able to get up and down off the toilet for years, not just in the end of her life, but for years, was a huge reality check of like, this woman, my grandmother, never did anything hard in her life. Like, she never challenged her body in an athletic way. And it really caught up to her quite early in her life. And then I was there for the end to see, like, this is not what I want. So in my 30s, I'm going to be working not only to be great in the dance studio, but to be able to get on and off the toilet and to go as long as I can without care. So when my body functions, as our muscles are reproducing and growing, that's also helping with your immune system and your ability to digest food. And so you're really taking care of yourself, and more than how your joints feel while you dance when you add strength training and good cross training into your life. And it helps your mental state as well. So lots of benefits.
Definitely. It's just so multifaceted, like you said, and its benefits. And I think one of the things for me with getting motivated to do it is reminding myself that I'm asking my body to do really hard things in the dance studio, and I need to give it the love and empowerment to do the things I'm asking it to do. It's like, I think oftentimes as adults, we go into the studio and we're like, why can't I do a grand jeté? And it's like, think about what you're asking your body to do when you're asking your, 36-year-old body to jump off the ground, and not just get off the ground, but do it looking good. And it's like, am I doing the work on the back end to empower my body to do that in the studio? Or am I just like expecting that it's somehow just going to magically click into happening by repetition of going to a couple classes a week? It's just not. So I think for people that maybe struggle to incorporate it, because, sometimes you feel like it's not as fun or sexy as,
Totally.
take a dance class. It's just different, but it's really like you're giving yourself a gift in the studio. And I think that's the mentality that I've been trying to have this year, of give your body the gift of having an even better class because you're doing the things to support it, and not just going in and expecting it to do these things that you haven't built up the strength to do. Because I know it's hard. Like, adults, as you said, we're so busy, and sometimes it feels like, oh, I can barely get to a dance class. Like, how am I going to incorporate cross training? But I think that there are ways to do it, and maybe that's something you can talk about, is how can busy adults incorporate cross training into their schedule in a way that is realistic?
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest thing. And I get it. Like, I was a dancer. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to take time to lift a weight. I have a slightly different tune now, 15 years later. But if I'm very honest, which I always am, I don't love it. Like, if you ask me if I want to go to a dance class or do I want to do cross training, I would rather go to a dance class. But as adults, we might be falling into the hole of like, well, I only have this amount of time. I should do it being very specific in the thing that I'm working towards. And I agree, but dance or class as a whole is actually not specific at all. I always recommend that you go in with a priority, one thing that you're going to focus on for that class, and probably more likely for weeks. And when you do that, it does mean that you're putting other things aside, because there are hundreds of things to be thinking about in every single combination you do. So you have to go in and say, okay, today I am arm focused. And maybe even more specifically, I am focused on my hands. What are my hands doing? And when you do that, it doesn't mean everything else gets pushed out of your mind. Like you're still making the run through your body and think, am I on my standing leg? Am I doing the combination? But when you start to go toes, hips, flexibility, you go, no, hands, 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 and you bring your attention back to that. So when we start thinking that it's better to spend all of my time in the studio because I only have X amount of time, you are doing yourself a disservice because you're not prioritizing. So what I would do and what I encourage my dancers to do is to choose a dance thing that they want to focus on. Turnout, extension, arabesque, pointed toes, ankle stability. I mean, you name it, anything. Even you can even tell me you want to think about your big finger. Think about that and then add in 1 to 2 20-minute cross-training sessions that are focused on that. That is a great use of your time. Your studio work will be so much more effective than if you go into the studio with 1,000 thoughts because you only get an hour a week to do class, or you only get to take 2 classes this week. So if you can go in with a priority and then make the small amount of time that you do have and you make for yourself outside of the studio, make it focused on that thing too. And that's really what has spurred me to put all of the Dancer Strong things together and to continue growing the library, because I want you to be able to say, okay, I'm focused on arabesque this month. What are good cross training exercises that are not just working on back bends, because that's not going to cut it. And your body is going to hate you if all you do is back bends to try to improve your arabesque. Yeah. So here are some curated exercises in a short amount of time that you can go work on. And then you can go into class and think about your arabesque throughout the classes that you're doing. But we don't have to go all or nothing. You just need to add small things in outside of the studio. That little bit of consistency doing something different than ballet really is a foundational thing that happens. And we have so many studies that prove that cross training elevates your sport. And that's what we're doing. It's an artistic sport, but it's a sport and it's a very demanding one. And then lastly, this was a long little spurt here. We in the dance world have not been taught to value rest time. And that trickles into the adults because you're already busy. You're already trying to get in as much as you can because you feel like you're behind. But never, ever, ever undervalue the amazing benefits of rest. It might feel like if you take a few days off or even a week or 2 off or whatever it ends up being, that you're way behind. But your body has recouped. And we're talking a couple, a week of break in between. But when you take that rest time, your body actually can rejuvenate, your muscles can rebuild, your immune system can come back, like everything gets better.
Yeah, so important. I feel like going back to what you said earlier, I think it's so common with adult dancers too, where it's like we don't rest until it's forced upon us by some sort of unfortunate incident. And that's something that I learned the hard way. I'm much more conscious about resting now after having thrown my back out because it's not like a negotiable thing anymore of like, oh, if I feel really tired, then I'll rest. It's like, no, you are not taking a dance class every day of the week. It's just not happening anymore because it's like looking at it from the perspective of the long game versus a short game. It's like I want to dance for a long time, not just little spurts and having to take these big breaks. And another thing too, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, but when it comes to incorporating cross training, a way that I feel like I've been able to fit it in is even just when I get to class for my warm-up routine, trying to incorporate some strength exercises in that 10-15 minutes. Like I do turtle planks now that you've given me turtle planks. I think you gave those to me specifically after I threw my back out because we're really working on getting my core strong, because I think that's a big reason why my back went is because I had a weak core and I would overuse my back to compensate. So now it's like non-negotiable for me. Before class, if I do nothing else, I do a few sets of turtle planks. And I think that that's been such a great, it reminds me of Atomic Habits where he talks about habit stacking, and so it's like putting something on to something you're already doing. And so it's like, okay, I'm at class, I'm sitting down to warm up. I do my turtle planks as part of that. And it only takes a few minutes, but it's a really great strength exercise for me that helps support my overall goal of having a strong core. There's just little ways that you can grab certain exercises. I mean, obviously doing a full workout is important too, but even if you're just incorporating one or two exercises at random times, I think that that's a way to get it in, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's a big way that dancers get their time in is like if you don't have the time at home, most of us show up to the studio at least 10 minutes before. And if you show up when class is starting, you walk in the door, you find your spot, and you drop down into that turtle play. But there is time. You just have to be on top of it. You have to decide that that is there. So that's a super common way that people are getting their work in. And it's not always the easiest if you are using a weight, but then you can prioritize and say like, okay, at home, I'm going to do these, but I can do the rest of these at the studio. Yeah. And that really is a super beneficial way to do it. There was something I heard that has always stuck with me, and I don't know who originally said it, but they called the little things you do throughout your day movement snacks. And it has just stuck with me. Like, we know you don't want to let your blood sugar crash. You need to eat something throughout the day, little bites. It's not about a gigantic meal. It's just little sustenance for your body. Your movement snacks are that. That can apply to if you have a sitting job, standing up, stretching your upper back, getting your 10,000 steps in a day, getting small little stretches in for whatever has been bothering you. Just little tiny things. So you're making the conscious effort to take a snack. It does not need to be a Thanksgiving meal. They add up. All those little tiny snacks you do during the day keep you feeling full and energized to get to the end of the day. And the movement is the same way. So do your snacks and you're going to feel a lot better than doing nothing. And that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah. And I would love for you to, you alluded to it, but I feel like this is such a good lead in even for your Dancer Strong platform, because I know you have workouts on there that are less than 20 minutes that are so great to be able to just slot in. And so could you explain the Dancer Strong program for someone who has no idea what it is, for people that may not have heard of it yet?
Yeah. So Dancer Strong is my online platform. It has grown and evolved over almost 9 years. So I was doing virtual before it was COVID cool. It started with programs put together to focus on specific things. You want to get more flexible, you want to have more turnout, X, Y, and Z. And my goal is always that they're effective, that they're supported by sports evidence, and that they're doable for all bodies. So teaching modification and really choosing to show them on bodies that are capable but not extreme is something that I actively choose to do, because I hate seeing a little 13-year-old do some kind of crazy Russian acro thing and then telling me that that's going to be the thing that improves my arabesque. I'm like, well, I might as well stop right now. So that is one of the big choices that I made. And I think that all comes from injuries. And we talked about that stuff before, and maybe not feeling like everybody has, or I didn't have that perfect dancer body, but somehow I still got better. So this platform has now evolved into having an on-demand library with over 100 workouts that are a wide variety of cross-training things. So everything is cross-training, but you can choose what you're focusing on. So if you want to specifically be working on turnout, here are a plethora of exercises that are going to take you through a little bit of core work, a little bit of hip work, a little ankle work, but they're all going to be things that look more like cross-training, not just standing in the studio, turn out, turn out, turn out. That's the end goal, but the work that we need to do to get to that turnout is where my stuff comes in. You can also choose workouts that are general full body strength. So they're just things that are going to work on, like you said, like just feeling stronger, being more capable, preparing my body for the hard things that are going to come. Being prepared is the most important thing about reducing our risk of injury. If I'm going to decide to play football tomorrow, I have a very high risk of injury because I have done nothing to prepare my body for it. Not in my wheelhouse right now. But could I prepare my body for it? Yeah, absolutely. But it's going to take some time to train that way. So if we're training to be dancers, if we're training to see that change in the studio, these are ways for you to do that. The platform also continuing to grow with cues and breakdowns of how you do it. Kind of like you brought up the harness hip. What is that cue? Why does it work? What are we thinking of? So the system, the library is always growing with some of those things as well that always live there and are there for you to revisit. And, I want to figure out how to get out of my hips more and get up on my standing leg. Let's see what could be here and what could I take. So that's ever growing. But this was put together to assist dancers who don't have time and who want evidence-based training. There are some really, really great sports trainers who are working with dancers out there. And there are 10 times as many really terrible ones. And the terrible ones get a lot of traction because they look really cool. But they also scare me. They're the ones that are like in the acro position. Like, wait, how is that going to make me better? So I'm really working to build this with the adult dancer in mind because I think, like we said in the beginning, we're smarter, we're wiser, we want longevity. And longevity does not happen in an instant 5-minute, look how cool my split is exercise. Do you want to do the split? Yes. Are we going to get you there? Absolutely. But our goal is not to be insta-famous in 5-minute exercise. Our goal is to dance until we're 90 and to progressively get better at it. And we want to enjoy the whole journey and not regret the exercise that you did because it threw your back out. That's kind of how the whole thing is put together.
And I love that. And I know most of our audience of the podcast is adults. And I think that's one of the things that I love so much about working with you and your platform specifically is as a fairly athletic, but I'm not an advanced dancer and I've had injuries and I can do everything in your platform. I can follow and it might be hard, but it's not, to your point, it's not trying to get me in these weird positions where like my leg is up to my ear and I'm like, I can't do that. And I'm not going to name names, but I think we all know there's a lot of programs out there, online programs where I'm like, I wouldn't buy that program just because I can already tell you're going to be trying to get me to do things that as an adult, I am not going to be able to do. And like, what is the value in that? And I really would want people who are listening to this to know that what you're saying is not just like a sales pitch, like it is 100% true from someone who uses the platform, that you will be able to do all the exercises and see growth and feel challenged, but not unsafe or like you're going to hurt yourself and have a really great experience, because I think it can be really discouraging to sign up for an online program where there are these like crazy extremes of exercises. It's almost just furthering that mindset of like, oh, I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to be able to do this, which I think adults struggle with enough. And so to then go into like a strength training or a cross training platform and feel like that's just getting reinforced by the type of exercises you're being asked to do is not the experience that any adult wants to have. So you will not experience that doing Dancer Strong. It will be hard. You kick my butt.
I really want it to be something that everybody can digest. And from the beginning of all of my training, dancers have said that if you can walk away from working with me as a smarter dancer that knows how to take care of your body better, I have done my job. When you have an aha moment, it affects everything. I think if you haven't experienced that yet, like we need to get you there, because when you do have one of those, it changes everything. And then you wait for the next one. And then it changes a bunch of things. And then you wait for the next one. And that should keep happening as you're dancing. Is it going to happen every month? Probably not. But it's going to happen in these jumps where you can look back and be like, oh my gosh, when I realized what my turnout muscles are, it changed. When I realized what it felt like to lift my leg without my hip gripping, it changed. When I realized what it felt like to really get tall and long, and not just look in the mirror and try to look a certain way, it changed. So those are the dance moments that I am training you for, or I hope I'm training you for, because yes, we are training to be healthy, thriving humans, but you are here listening to this because dance is your passion. It's what you want to get better at. So all of this work and everything I put together is so that you have those moments, so that you can find those aha moments in the studio.
I love the platform. And also, too, if you could talk about other ways that people can connect with you, because I know you do in-person sessions, but obviously our listeners are kind of all over the world. Quite a few people in Europe and stuff. So we were looking at our stats the other day and we were like, we have a listener in Istanbul. What? Okay, cool.
Hello, Istanbul.
Yeah, it's so fun. But I know you do virtual one-on-ones too, because even though you and I are only about an hour apart,
It's a long California hour.
LA traffic, it's no joke. So we've done our share of virtual sessions, which have also been great. So can you tell people about other ways that they can connect with you?
Absolutely. So I do work one-on-one with people, both in person and virtually. Like I said, I've been doing virtual for a long time. And part of what I knew I wanted to do was to be able to reach people around the world. So that started with being able to get really good at training people with my words, not even showing them, but I have to be able to train you with my words. So sometimes I would challenge myself just to sit here. I'm like, I'm not gonna show anything. I am going to get you to do it right with just good QA. So that's one of the fun things that we can do wherever you are in the world. I have the online platform, which has the on-demand library. It also has all those programs that have recently been redone and updated. So that's a fun way to kind of choose something specific to work on. I am jumping around at adult summer programs. I know that this year I'll be at the Catherine Morgan Intensive in Huntington Beach. And my first official announcement, I'm so excited I get to do this. Catherine and I co-created a workshop that we're going to be doing May 31st and June 1st in Huntington Beach. And it is going to be focused on extensions and turnout. And that is it. So we will be co-teaching the entire time. We're going to go through what is turnout, how do we do it, what are the exercises. We're going to go through that. We're going to get time to experience it on your body, answer questions, and then take it into the studio, go through a full class, both of us there giving our expertise and everything. So we'll do that one day for turnout and one day for extension. So I'm super excited about that. And there's a couple other fun things to come, but you can stay up to date if you go to my website, which is dancerstrongprograms.com. And there's actually right now a free absolute beginner's guide to strength training for adult dancers. It's a very long name, but we needed to get all of that in there. So it's totally free, and it actually is a full 6-week program. There's videos, there's explanations, there's PDFs to take you through workouts. So if you are interested in getting stronger as an adult dancer, go start there. Totally free. It has a lot for you to digest there. And then from there, reach out. Let me know where you found me, what your questions are. I'm always answering emails and DMs and all of that stuff as well.
Y'all need to give yourself the gift of a session with Allie. Get yourself a one-on-one. It is the best, honestly. Because like I said at the beginning, I worked with you for the first time in a group setting, and it was fantastic. But getting to connect with you one-on-one and address some of the nuances of my own body has been so invaluable. So I think for adults, because of all the things we touched on in this episode, the different challenges, if you can just give yourself the gift of connecting with you to understand your own body and your unique challenges and hone some of the things that you can work on, such a great investment. I really feel like working with you is an investment in your longevity as a dancer. So definitely do that. We will have all of Allie's information. You are on Instagram, right?
Instagram, Align Fitness by Allie. YouTube, same thing. TikTok, I post sometimes, but Instagram and YouTube, that's my thing. So there's tons and tons of content on there. So you can go get all your little movement snacks. That is a great place to start playing and trying and listening to maybe how I'm saying something. Does it resonate? Can you try something different? That is a great spot to start as well.
Yeah, and people can do a 7-day free trial, right, of the platform?
Yes, you can do that free trial of the whole platform. So you can dive into it as much as you can in that 7 days and, kind of get a sense of my style of teaching and what the flow is like. And you can jump around and just see what all the different workouts feel and look like.
Awesome. Yeah, I should definitely check that out if you haven't. Thank you so much for your time, Allie. It was so fun.
So fun. I will do it anytime.
Good to know. I take you up on that. I feel like I could have thought of 20 more questions to ask.
Okay, we'll do a part 2. That sounds fine. This was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. We hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We'll have all of Allie's contact information in the show notes, so definitely make sure you connect with her, and we will catch you next week on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to After Class.
Join the community on YouTube and Instagram, or come dance with us, our weekly Zoom classes for adult ballerinas like you.
Links included in the episode description. Special thank you to our sponsors.
See you next time after class. Podcast produced by Mission Bridge Media.